And welcome. Thank you so much for everyone who is on time. We are going to allow just 3 more minutes and we will begin promptly at 3:05 p.m. Please allow us those 3 minutes and thanks again for being on time. It is 3:05 p.m. and we are ready to begin. On behalf of Flow Foundation and one-on-one educational services, a deep and resounding welcome to you all. Today, we want to add even more value to the Training for Professionals program. You have been doing the work with over 7,800 courses already completed in just 2 months since our launch on August 30, 2021. We celebrate you and your continued success. Well done. But we wanted to do more. So we have put together a series of webinars which will be focused on the curriculum areas that you are completing. These webinars will be hosted by industry experts and will be geared towards providing you with the knowledge that you need to upskill yourself and to influence your future. While we conduct the webinar today, there is a question and answer segment. If you look on your screen, you will see the question and answer icon, which has the question mark in it. You can simply click on that, type your questions in. I will make note of those questions and ask the speaker, and she'll provide the answers for you. So you can start typing your questions in at any time, even now if you have them already. Without further delay, I want to introduce you to today's speaker. You are doing your best. So we went out and we found you the best speaker. Today's speaker is a certified project management professional. She has worked with companies across the Caribbean and South Pacific. She's worked in the financial, IT, and telecoms industry. She's the owner of consultcad.com, which is a project management blog through which she shares her perspectives, and feel free to drop by because she gives away free project templates. She's a former board member of the Project Management Institute Jamaica chapter, where she served as vice president of marketing. She lists her goal as a project management professional who seeks to align business goals with solutions that increase productivity and create long-term value. Please help me to welcome today's speaker, Khadine Carty.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for that great introduction, Sashini.
Welcome.
All right. I too don't want to delay, so let's kickstart the presentation. Let me know when it's up.
And it's up.
Perfect. All right. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us today. We have chosen the topic project management for non-project managers because in this post-pandemic world that we're living in, and workplace that we operate in, it is ever changing, rapidly changing, which means that you may be asked at any time to manage an urgent project. And even if your job title is not project manager. And so the objective of this webinar is to give you a walkthrough of the basics of project management to help build the confidence you need to kick off any project, either for work, your community, or a personal project. So today we will cover the definition of project management and a project. We will go through the project management lifecycle from initiating a project straight through to closing a project. We will cover the PM triangle, which is all about the triple constraints that affect the quality of a project. We will go through time management, team management, and stakeholder management, also risk management. These are critical areas of the project that needs to be managed properly in order to ensure success. And finally, we will cover the top 2 PMI certifications that people are interested in doing, which are the CAPM and the PMP. And for that, I'll just walk you through the requirements for applying for those certifications. So what is project management? Project management is a structured way of working and recording events that can bring order and coherence to any set of tasks with a predetermined goal. So when we say this, a structured way of working, what we refer to here is the techniques you apply to scheduling the activities for your project, managing the scope of work for the project, and managing your risks, managing all aspects of the project. What is the technique you use to execute those aspects of the project? So that's the way of working, the structured way of working. And when we say recording events, these are all the documentations that help you to execute the work for the project. So this is the plan of execution, the time plan that you have, which would be your schedule, your risk register, which is the document you would use to monitor the risks that may be encountered on the project and plan an approach to address those risks if they do occur. And when the set of tasks that we refer to here are all the activities that are required to get us to the predetermined goal. So what is a project? A project is a set of tasks undertaken within specific timescales and cost constraints in order to achieve a particular benefit. So this benefit is the reason you have embarked upon the project in the first place. So it's either to create a product, a service, or to realize some sort of benefit or result. The set of tasks are all the activities required to get you to that benefit. And that is usually done within a certain timeline and within certain costs. And this is what differentiates a project from an operational task, is that you have specific timelines. Operational activities are continuous, but projects have specific start and end dates. Now we move to the project life cycle. So there are 5 stages that a project goes through. We have the initiating stage. This is where you have come up with the idea for the project and you conduct your cost benefit analysis to see if it is really worth the effort. Let's say you do that analysis and the sponsor, who is the person paying for the project, agrees to embark upon this project. So here you would have the output, the recorded event for this stage would be a project charter, which is simply a document that is signed off by the project sponsor, outlining the scope of the project, the timelines within which it must be completed, the cost, and any assumptions you have made to date about the project. Once you have that signed document, we move to the planning phase of the project, which is where we take that charter, that high-level document that the sponsor would have signed off. You now flesh out that document. So you have your low-level breakdown of that document in this section here. So you would have done your detailed scope planning in this phase, your detailed time planning, where you would have all the tasks required to complete the project being listed with the owners of those tasks and the timeline within which they should be completed. You would have your risk planning happening in this section, as well as your cost management. And a communication plan for the project would also be completed here. Once you have that huge project plan, you then move to the execution phase of the project. And this is where you complete all the activities you would have planned. So this is doing the work to get the project done. So let's say you have a project to build, it's a community project to add a homework center to the community center. That would probably involve you guys painting and setting up, probably buying some desks and some chairs, buying a few desktop computers. So this is the phase of the project where you would have executed all those activities that you would have planned before. And a lot of times during the execution phase of the project, you find that you have to go back to planning, because as a project management is an iterative process. So while you're executing, you will learn more and you will find that, okay, there might have been something missed in the scope. And so you have to go back to the planning phase, or something that you would have wanted before is no longer required. And so you would have wanted to remove it. So you'd have to update your project management plan to reflect that. And while you're executing the project, you would also be doing your monitoring and controlling. So this, as the project manager, everything that you'd have planned to be executed, you would now review that plan and assess it against what is being done by the team to ensure that the expectations are being met. And this is where you would, in the monitoring and controlling phase, this is where you would also be applying those risk management strategies that you would have planned. So let's say a particular risk that you had planned for is now realized during the execution. Through your monitoring and controlling strategy, you would apply this strategy that you would have planned to address that risk. And continuing with our community center example, let's say we are now at the ending point of the project and you would have set up the center. You have some whiteboards, a few desktops, books, pens, pencils, all the materials that you deemed important for this implementation to be successful has now been completed. So you're now at your closing phase. At this section of the project, you would compare what was planned to what actually happened in the project. And you would document that and add it to your closing document. We call it a project closure document. And it would also include all the lessons you would have learned while executing the project. And this document now would also be signed off by your project sponsor, signaling the official end of the project. Now we move to the PM triangle, which is also called the triple constraint triangle. Here we have the 3 key areas of a project that impact the quality of the project. And a key thing to note here is that changes in one of these areas necessitates change in at least one other area. So let's say you're working on your community project. We can continue with that example. And the scope of the project includes getting 15 laptops, well, desktop computers for the center so that the kids can use it for the homework program. And the budget that the team has cannot accommodate the purchasing of that number of laptops. Then they would have to change that, either increase the budget or reduce the scope of what they want in order to achieve that quality, because it would not be possible. Let's say you want to have a high quality product at a fast time, at a cheap cost. That is definitely not possible. The quality of the output would be very poor. If you want to have cheap but good, you have to extend the time. If you want fast with good, then you have to pay more. Some things gotta give, so to speak. The next thing we have here is managing time. Time management is a critical aspect of project management. And one of the key outputs from the planning phase of the project is your project schedule. This is something you can create in an Excel document, yeah, or if you use Google, you can use Google Sheets to create a simple spreadsheet which outlines the task list all the tasks required to achieve the project goal, all the persons assigned to complete those tasks, the timelines within which the tasks must be completed, and the predecessor activities for each task. So if it is that in order to complete task 2, task 1 must be completed, then you must state that item as a predecessor so that the sequence of the tasks are clearly outlined. While executing the project, you can add an additional column to track the progress and this would be your monitoring and controlling. So based on where you need to be, is the progress aligned? Do you need to put in some risk management strategies to ensure that the end date is not missed, or is it unavoidable? So what would be your contingency since a mitigation would not work? And another aspect of time management is prioritizing our tasks. A lot of times we go through our day and let's say it's 5 p.m. and we're wondering, oh my, where did the time go? I can't even account for what I did during the work day. And then when you take a check, you spent your time probably on some tasks that were not important. And so it can be of value to apply this sort of metrics to your task prioritization. So here we have important, not important, urgent, and not urgent. So tasks that are important and urgent are tasks that you must do. So these would be your tasks with clear deadlines and consequences for not taking immediate action. So we just went through the stages of a project. Let's say the deadline for getting the signed project charter, which is the initiating document for the project, is November 4th. And you delay, and as a result, the document isn't signed until the 6th. That would have impacted the start date of your project and may affect the scope of the project as a result, or the cost of the project as a result. So it is important to do the tasks that are urgent and important. Another example of a task that would be important and urgent would be picking up your sick child from school. Yeah. Then we have tasks that are important but not urgent. So these are activities without a set deadline that bring you closer to your goal. And it's quite easy to procrastinate on these sort of tasks. Examples of this would be networking. Networking is important, but it is not urgent. Doing a professional development course is very important, but not necessarily urgent. Exercising would be another example of important, but not urgent. Then we have those tasks that are not important, but are urgent. So these are the tasks you delegate, because though they need to be done, they don't require your specific skills. And so you will delegate these tasks to your other team members. So this would include things like sending out the weekly project status report to all your stakeholders. It's a very urgent matter, but it is not important. It doesn't require your unique skills. And so you could delegate that task to one of your team members. Responding to some emails as well. If it doesn't require your specific knowledge, then you can have a certain team member address those types of emails. Then we have the tasks that are not important and not urgent. These are the tasks that we need to eliminate, delete them. These are distractions that make us feel worse afterwards. They can be okay, but only in moderation. So this would be like checking social media, watching Netflix, things along that line, things that are not of any great value. Now we move to team management. So at the beginning of your project, you would, which is the initiating stage, and yes, during the initiating stage and some aspects of the planning stage, you would have the formation of your team. So this is when the team has just gotten together and everything is new and exciting. You know, curiosity is usually at a high at this time as well. And people are connecting emotionally, but, you know, at a superficial level. Then we get deeper into the planning of the project, yes, where we will experience some storming. So this is when conflicts and disagreements start to surface. And this is where uncertainty of others is high in terms of their ability to complete or their task or their ability to lead. And this usually results in conflict. And people are generally not very open and honest at this stage. So as the project manager, it is your responsibility to create some cohesion amongst the team members. And some strategies you could apply would be developing a listening culture amongst the team members, having more one-on-one interaction with your team members so that you can understand their personalities and their strengths and weaknesses and assign them roles that fit those traits. Promoting an open communication amongst the team members and ensuring that there is free flow of information. Because when we find ourselves in situations where information is held back, it causes a lot of speculation, which can lead to distrust and more conflict amongst the team members. And at this stage, because everything is still new, there will be a lot of mistakes. So it is important to ensure that mistakes are viewed as a learning experience rather than playing a blame game. Once we sort out all those kinks, we move to the norming stage. And it is very important to move to this stage very quickly. As in this norming stage, this is where you would have confidence improved and differences of opinions are respected, goals become more manageable, and the team is just functioning well at this point. Everything is working together. And once we have that going, we then move to the performing stage. So once the team is at this stage, this is where the team is, more fluid and people take turns leading and they delegate work because they trust each other. And the team begins to grow, the team members begin to grow as they are taking turns to lead. So that results in a lot of growth for persons and the goals and targets are being reached on a regular basis. And so you as the project manager, knowing that your team is at this performing stage, you can take a 5-day vacation worry-free because you know that even without you present, your team will function well. Now we move to stakeholder management. So your project team members form part of your stakeholder group. And along with persons who are impacted by your project and persons who can impact your project. And we manage our stakeholders based on their influence and their level of interest in the project. So here we have those stakeholders who have high influence, but a low level of interest in your project. So these are the stakeholders whose needs you need to ensure are being met. You should engage and consult them on their specific areas of interest, however low it may be, because we need to keep them engaged. This is usually persons who are, let's say, your board members and other persons that are in the organization that are of high influence. Then we have persons of high influence and who have a high level of interest. These are the persons that we need to manage closely. So in this area, we would have our project sponsor, again, the person who is paying for the project. You would have your project advisory board, which we refer to as the steering committee. So these are the key players of the project, and we should ensure that we involve them in all aspects of the project governance, as they are our decision-making body. They are the advisory group of the project, and we should always ensure to engage and consult them regularly. Then we have those persons of low interest and low influence. These are persons that we need to monitor. So, for example, this would be the persons who, the general members of the general employees of a company, or let's say you're working on a project that may be impacted by some government regulation, you would keep those persons, or you would have a stakeholder on your project from that arm of government and ensure that they are kept informed about the project activities or the specific area of the project that they need to be aware of. Maybe you need to submit some sort of document or get an approval from that government body, and this is where those people would fall. Then we have the persons of low influence but high interest. This is where your project team members would be. You need to ensure that you show consideration for these persons and ensure that you maintain that high level of interest that they have. Keep them informed, consult them on their areas of interest. These persons are your goodwill ambassadors, your key supporters. Next, we have risk management. Risk management is critical to the success of a project. It's impossible to have a project with no risks. And so we must ensure from the initial stage of the project, so that's stage 1, that we have started to account for the potential risks. So even in the project charter, we would have at a high level, based on the very little knowledge we have at that point in time, we would have those risks documented in the project charter. So taking that very little information, we would use it and then build out the full-scale risk management plan. So in the planning phase of the project, you would create your response team. This is your risk response team, and it may include members of the project team who are involved in the development or the execution of the specific output of the project, and it may not include those persons. So all the people, all the persons on your project team that you want to be a part of your risk response would be selected at this point in time. Once you've selected the persons to manage the risks throughout the course of the project, you would move to a place where you are conducting your assessment. This is when you're analyzing risks that can impact the project. They can either impact your stakeholders, impact your scope, impact your timelines, or impact your costs. So all the things that can potentially affect the quality of your project output. Those items would be identified here. And this happens not only during the planning phase of the project, but throughout the entire duration of the project. So during execution of the project, new risks would arise. And so this response team would document those risks in what we call a risk management log. So they would be logging all the risks and in that document. Once we have identified our risks, we then move to build the action plan. So this document outlines exactly how we will respond to each risk. And a lot of times when we hear the word risk, we think of things that can negatively impact our project, threats to our project. But there are risks that are also positive. Those would be opportunities. And we should always ensure that we outline all those risks and how we will respond to them in our risk plan. Are we going to accept the risk? If we accept it, what is that plan of acceptance? What is going to be a mitigation plan for a risk? What is going to be a contingency plan for a risk? And key to this planning is identifying at what stage of the project can we expect to realize this risk. So remember before we went through the project schedule? Well, for each task or the summary tasks related to those subtasks, you might have risks associated with them. And so we tie a risk back to a specific section of the project scope. And so when it is the appointed time to execute that activity, we review the risks associated with that specific activity to say, okay, guys, if this occurs, this is how we should act. Or if there are new risks that are identified for that specific phase, we will add it to our log, ensure that whoever is assigned to respond to that risk is ready with the tools that they may need to address it if it occurs. And throughout the entire course of the project, we will review the outcomes of those risks to ensure that if there are any lessons learned, so that we document any lessons learned that may occur. And we can then apply it to other similar risks that we may encounter on this project or in a future project. Onto the PMI certifications. PMI, which is the Project Management Institute, is the global leading authority on project management. And the CAPM and PMP are two of the most popular certifications that they offer. So the CAPM is the Certified Associate of Project Management. So this certification shows that the holder is knowledgeable about the principles and practices of project management. And the requirement to apply for this is a high school diploma or its equivalent and 23 hours of project management education. And a key thing to note about the education part is that we should always ensure that whichever course we select is accredited by the PMI. If it is not accredited by them, they will not accept the course. And you can always verify if the course you're interested in is accredited by them by checking their website, pmi.org. And you can type in the name of the course and you'll see it in the listing. A lot of times persons who offer or organizations that offer accredited courses have a specific ID number provided to them by PMI, and you can search that ID number to see if the course really is accredited or if it is still accredited. And One-on-One does offer accredited accredited project management courses. Sashini can walk you through all those courses. Also, the Jamaica chapter of the Project Management Institute does offer project management courses. The next certification we have here is the PMP. This is the Project Management Professional Certification. If you have a 4-year degree, you will require 36 months of project leadership experience, along with 35 hours of project management education. But if you have the CAPM, that would be a substitute for that 35 hours. If you have a high school diploma, you will require 60 months of experience leading projects in order to apply for the certification. And you can always find more details about these certifications and others by visiting pmi.org/certifications. And if based on today's presentation, you're interested in project management or applying these project management techniques have piqued, then you can visit my blog where I provide free project management templates where you can put your learning into practice. So if it is that you're embarking upon a project and you want an easy way to track the timelines of your activities, there are templates available. If you want to manage your risks, you can find a template for that, as well as for managing your stakeholders and for managing your scope, and along with other aspects of project management, like cost management, for example. And that is it. Thank you all for your time. Over to you, Sashini.
Wow. Thank you so much, Khadine. You have provided so much information. I myself have been taking notes, and some of the things that you said that resonated with me was the 5 stages of the project management, the initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, and closing. And it resonated with me also because I'm thinking, project management is like life. I should be managing my life like a project, right? I like the project management triangle and those 3 points that you mentioned, the scope, the cost, and time. Compromising on one, means that it affects the others. And I think that is so true overall, right? I also liked the managing time matrix that you gave us, where we can decide to either do it, decide to do it later, delegate it, or delete it, get rid of it altogether. So these were so helpful, and I'm certain that everyone in the chat has been taking notes. I have been taking notes of the questions that we have for you. So I'm going to jump right into it so you can provide clarity. The first question someone joined and asked was, will the PowerPoint be shared? I know it's your your professional collateral, but can you answer that for our attendee?
Yes, it will be made available. You can visit my blog and you can find it there in the resources section. And I will also share it with you so that you can then share it with the persons who have attended.
Awesome, thank you. I'm sure that the team will be happy to receive it. I'm also going to just take the opportunity to drop your social media information in the chat right now, so you can get in touch with Khadine. Her social media information is in the chat. Question number 2. Someone messaged me to say there is so much people management involved in project management. What is your most challenging experience managing a project?
Even though people management is difficult, I wouldn't say it is the most difficult part of managing the project for me. It would be more about trying to meet the expectations with the budgets provided. Okay. That's a greater challenge. So cost management is a greater challenge for me than people management. But as it relates to people management, what I find is that spending time on doing that one-on-one communication with persons, not using formal language, just, chatting regularly, showing an interest in them as a person makes it easier for them to communicate to you when they have issues. So like for me on my projects, I have team leads for each area of the projects. And I would have conversations with those team leads, and I have conversations with the persons that they manage, and make recommendations based on the feedback that I get from those persons. I always try to make people feel comfortable talking to me about their issues so that we can get conflict resolved in a timely manner.
Awesome, thank you. The next question, someone said project advisor, sponsor, board, can all of these be the same person?
Yes, it certainly can be the same person. So the person paying for the project might be the only person who is your advisor, and that makes it even harder, I should say, probably. You have to ensure that you properly manage the relationship with that person, because it's not like you would have other groups of persons in that area that you can pull on if you have any sort of, friction between you two. So you have to properly maintain that relationship if it is the one person. But yes,
absolutely.
It is.
And there's a benefit, I believe, to having several persons, because you get more perspective. Wouldn't you agree?
Definitely, that is true.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so I have a question here from Dane Bennett in the chat. He said, what if you estimate a certain time period to complete a certain task, but then it takes longer than what you expected due to client delay in providing information needed? How do you go about that situation? Very detailed question.
Yeah, and a very good one. So monitoring and controlling the execution of that task, then you would know beforehand that that risk is about to be realized. And so what I do is prompt the client to say, okay, we have this issue here where, we have a timeline delay from your end, and this will be the impact if it is not addressed. So trying to get them to see the full picture of their delay usually gets them to do what they need to.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Someone said, so how long is the project management? Okay, I think that's a question for me. And I'm looking through the chat. Oh, so many persons are asking if they're gonna get a certificate for attending this. Will we get assistance with getting CAPM if we're interested? You can remind them of how they would go about getting the CAPM certification, please, Khadine.
Yeah, man. So if you need any further information, you can also reach out to me via my socials. But to get the CAPM, you need 23 hours of project management education, and one-on-one offers some project management courses. I don't know if it covers the 23 hours required. Sashini can respond on that. But we at the Project Management Institute Jamaica chapter, we offer course in Principles and Practices of Project Management, which we do through the University of the West Indies. That is a 36-hour course, so it would work if you want to do the CAPM or the PMP.
Okay, awesome. Who are the different members on a project management team? You might have mentioned that, but I think this person might have missed it. So if you can just give an overview of that.
No problem. So you would have the person who is paying for the project, right? So that is the person, the number one person that you report to. And that person is referred to as the project sponsor. Depends on the size of the project or the size of the resources available to the project. You might have a project owner who directly reports into that sponsor, and that person usually acts as your, let's say, they are your superhero. They do everything for you as the project manager that you need to be done. All the hurdles that you have, they usually break them down for you. So it's usually very great when you have a project that also has a project owner. That person also assists the project manager as it relates to the people management side of the project. So it depends on the size of the project. The key role of the project manager is always to ensure that the processes are functioning as they should. Sometimes the project manager also has to be the people manager. And I'm not talking about the project team here. I'm talking about all the persons impacted by and can be impacted and can impact the project. So your project owner would be that person that you escalate all your people related issues to. And they would also work with the sponsor to get you more budget if you need more money based on whatever new need the sponsor might have. Or maybe during the planning phase of the project, you realize, oh my, we need more money. You then lean on that project owner to persuade the sponsor to throw in some more money or extend the timeline. If it is that the scope is the most important thing. Then you would have, let's say you're working on an IT project, you might have a IT lead on your project team. And let's say this is an IT project that impacts the commercial side of the business, you would have a commercial lead. So all areas of the business that are impacted by the project would have some key person who's a part of your project team to ensure that all their needs are being met by the project.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I think we're wrapping up, but one more question came in. Someone's asking, do you need to have knowledge of the specific subject area to manage a project for that area? I think what they're saying is perhaps you have been in finance, you've worked in IT and telecoms. For example, going into finance, did you have a finance background? Or are you able to apply project management techniques and so on to manage a project without having a finance background?
Yeah, you don't need industry specific knowledge. Actually, my background is in marketing. And as I said, I've led IT projects, finance projects, and even HR projects. So no, the methodology, the project management methodologies can be applied across industry. You can go into a construction project. You don't need subject matter level expertise in order to manage a project in that area.
And for me, I've noticed, I've seen where project management jobs, perhaps on Caribbean jobs or so on, and they'd say, oh, we need an IT project manager. Is that because they may want that person to operate as the IT project lead as well as the project manager?
Possibly. And maybe based on the size of the organization or the scope of the project, they might find it to be of value to have someone who has some amount of IT experience. But I would say still apply for the job, go and do the interview, you might win them over even without that IT expertise.
Awesome. And this is from me, a comment from me. I've noticed in recent times, a lot of organizations are going for project managers rather than specifically skilled individuals. So it seems like, would you say project management is in high demand? It's a growing requirement, a growing skill set, would you say?
Definitely. I mean, especially based on how the pandemic has shifted how businesses think, they would want to be able to be more agile. And it's very easy to move from one form of management to another if you have a project management on your team or a change management expert who can help guide the team along.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, I'm just browsing through the comments here to see if there is any other for you. And I believe that that is it. But Khadine, I want to thank you so much. In just a short 45 minutes presentation, you've provided us with a wealth of knowledge. We are better for it, and we want to thank you for taking the time out. I want to encourage everyone on the webinar now to go ahead and check out Khadine's social media. I've added the links to Khadine's social media. And do you want to repeat them for us, Khadine? How can we find you?
So my blog is Consult CAD. And you can find me on Instagram at consultcad, and I'm on LinkedIn as Khadine Carty.
Awesome. We want to thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And we certainly hope that you'll come back sometime soon to give us an update. Thank you for being with us, Khadine.
Thank you for inviting me. Bye-bye, everyone.
And we are now at the end of the webinar. I'm going to go right ahead now. Before you go, I'm going to share a link in the chat. The link is for our webinar survey. I would like you to fill out this survey so we can know how we go about our other webinar series to ensure that they are beneficial to you. The link is now in the chat. Click on the question and answer chat. Click on, I believe it's featured at the top, and you'll be able to see the link for the survey. While you fill out the survey, I'll answer some general questions I see in the chat. I believe these are for me. So Khadine had mentioned that some of our courses will give you hours. So remember, Khadine had mentioned that, for example, for CAPM, you would need to have, I believe, I don't want to quote incorrectly, 25 hours. Is that correct, Khadine?
23.
23 hours, right? So our courses, not all, but some of our project management courses offer you those hours. So those exemption hours. By completing the course, you would have exemption hours towards that certification. So after completing the courses on our platform, you do not get project management professional certification. What you get is the knowledge and the basis that you need to now go ahead and get certified. There are external certification organizations, like I know UWI does a full course. So we provided you with the exposure, and if this is the career path you want to take, feel free to go ahead and do so. You now have the skills that you need, the information that you need to make a decision. And as we wrap up, let me see if there's any other question in the chat for me.
I wanted to say one thing.
Sure.
The course at UWI is not UWI's course, it's PMI's course. They facilitate PMI.
Okay. Oh, well, that's perfect then, because that means PMI is the certifying body, right? So that would make it exactly perfect. Okay. All right, and I want to thank you all for the hundreds of persons who are online who have attended. I want to thank you so much. This is episode 1 in our series of webinars from One-on-One Educational Services, and we look forward to providing you with more exciting topics in our series. Thank you for coming out. Have a wonderful day.
Bye-bye.